So I will talk about livelihood. Livestock herding in Mongolia, it's a major economic activity. So this building sustainable livelihoods of herders, this is of course one of the major goals of the government of Mongolia, how to build sustainable livelihoods for herders. But there are many challenges to address all these challenges. So first, briefly about livestock herding in Mongolia. It's a national perspective we will talk first. Secondly, international perspective and current situation with extensive livestock herding. And way forward, we will talk here our recommendations and solutions. And also some results of pilot testing we have done in cooperation with our partners. And also some expected results or benefits of if we adopt this approach. So profile of Mongolia, as you know, it's 18th largest country in the world and quite high mountainous country. Average altitude is around 1,580 meters and minus 25 degrees Celsius. Total area is around 1.5 square million kilometers, and we have 2.3 million people, and it's one of the most empty countries in the world, only 2 persons for 1 square kilometer. Livestock herding is around 12% of GDP and 30% of employment. And it's also traditional economic activity and also major social safety net when disasters or economic declines happen in urban areas. It's mostly pasture-based, grass-fed livestock system. Around mostly 100% livestock is dependent on natural pastures. And most important features, of course, it's very low output, which means very low animal product per unit of animals, like only 600 kg of milk per year compared to 10,000 in developed economies. But of course, low output but very high value because of this organic nature of production. And lastly, of course, because of population growth, livestock herding become the major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions of Mongolia. It now accounts for almost half of Mongolia's greenhouse gas emissions. International perspective, as you know, now world food market is dominated by extensive farming system. Like for example, in USA, 97% of meat consumption comes from products from intensive feedlots. So only remaining 3% comes from grass-fed farms. So, but these intensive farm products, because of this health concerns, and people now want more organic, grass-fed food. For example, grass-fed beef has more omega-3 acids compared to intensive feedlot beef. It's, as you can see here, it's twice more in grass-fed beef, its omega-3 acids content. In 2015, there was a survey in USA, and on this retail price of beef, 1 kg of beef priced around $17.4 for grass-fed beef, but traditional corn-fed beef is around $11, so $6 difference is quite high. In China, for example, in Mongolia, we have very similar conditions. And lamb produced in Inner Mongolia is priced in Beijing around $15 per kg. So we have now only 10,000, means around $5. So this means demand for organic food is increasing tremendously. In China's organic market has increased 30 times in past 10 years. So this means this creates new opportunities for producers of organic food like Mongolia. The same condition also happens in Russia, in EU and USA. So demand for organic food is increasing tremendously. So we need to realize on these opportunities. So Mongolia's competitive advantage is, of course, not to produce, not to develop intensive farming, but we need to realize the potential of Mongolia's low output but high value organic food potential. The current situation, what happens with herders in Mongolia is, of course, herders continuously increase animal numbers in pursuit of higher income and higher asset value. But this economic behavior of herders results in major problems. For example, you can see here in picture, it looks like a quite rich herder with many animals. His mentality is to increase animal numbers further. So he thinks that pastures degraded now, where is the next ones? So he's looking for next pastures. So instead of increasing productivity, any Mongolian herder just thinks how to expand in terms of space and in control of pasture. So they just compete with each other instead of increasing livestock productivity. So we call this a tree. A development tree is barren, no fruits. So herders' mentality is that let's not bother with pasture, animal productivity, and health, just raise animal numbers. So this is the current herders' mentality. So the major change is how to change this mentality. This mentality happens because of this existing incentive structures. For example, herders use pastures free and no accountability mechanisms for overgrazing and degradation, no incentives for livestock product quality improvements. This means flat quantity-based prices. So if herders invest in animal productivity, they incur losses because the herders who invested no penny get the same price, which means he makes a bigger profit, but who invests makes loss. So this means the current system of incentives actually discourages herders in investing in productivity, just encourage herders to increase animal numbers. So this major problem actually raises where is the solution, how to change herders' behavior, what kind of incentive structures are needed to change herders' behavior from maximizing animal numbers into adopting more productivity-oriented strategies. Here just a little bit about what costs or consequences of increasing animal numbers. For example, overgrazing and degradation of pasture land resulted in 65% of Mongolian pastures already degraded, 7%, which is around more than 1 AMAG, already lost. No recovery, beyond recovery. Livestock productivity is declining because of chronic malnutrition. So malnutrition rate is now around 56%. This means animals actually consume only 44% what is required. So 2 sheep actually sharing forage for one sheep. So this leads to animal productivity decline. For example, live weight is decreasing, milk and cashmere wool output all decreasing, and also rural poverty is increased, 27.1% to 34.9% between 2014 and 2016. This is the World Bank estimate. And The value of animals is declined by 37% in 2014 and 2017. For the same period, in 2014 and 2017, animal number is increased by 27%, but market value is decreased 37%. The net change is minus 10%. So we can call this economic growth. Animals didn't die, but market value, capitalization, declined drastically. So this is a result of our growth, animals number, population overgrowth. And also, too many animals means the traditional risk management strategy, which is to migrate in emergency reserve areas, is no longer effective. Why? Because every corner is occupied. There is no reserve pastures to be used in emergencies. And meat export potential is stagnating at very low level, around 10% of its potential. Why? Because a major problem is animal health. But animal health problem arises because of malnutrition. Since all these problems are interrelated. And in UB, for example, we consume very uncertified, low quality meat. Of course, originally it's good quality, but there is no good certification system. So there is no good certification whether this meat, for example, have any antibiotics, any drugs, residuals. So its health concern is increasing among urban population. And also another big disadvantage is that inequality among rich and poor holders is increasing. Because as I explained earlier, holders' strategy is to expand in terms of space, which means, for example, I'm holder with 500 animals this year. Next year, I become holder with 1,000 animals and get government award. But what happened is I just got pastures of 2 poor holders with 250 animals each. Just grab it. I didn't invest in pasture productivity and productivity. Just grab it, poor holders pasture. For that, I got government award. Good holder with 1,000 animals. So this entire incentive system, rewarding system is wrong, and it actually encourages holders to further increase animal numbers and decrease the animal and livestock sector productivity. And of course, when pasture is degraded, local biodiversity is deteriorating, and tourism value of local areas is also worsening further. And here we little bit talk about international organic market requirement. Of course, number one requirement is health. It should be healthy. Second requirement is only food product is produced on pastures with optimum stock and densities. Not overgrazed pastures is considered as organic food. So for Mongolia, we need to meet 2 challenges. Number one is, of course, animal health issue. Secondly, we should reconcile animal numbers with pasture carrying capacity in order to reach international organic market. Please just skip here. So here, what's the solution? Just what I talked, it's summarized here as you know, this problem tree for livestock sector. And all these problems are interlinked, so I just probably don't need to talk all these links and problems. And this major 3 or 4, which is highlighted by red. Number one is, of course, holders' behavior to maximize animal numbers. Pursuing animal numbers quantity versus quality is number one problem. It leads to major other problems like overgrazing, low livestock output quality, low offtake rate, which means low number of animals sold to the market. And next problem is lack of cooperation in the right bottom corner. And the other one, lack of finance. So these are major big problems. So all these problems lead to low and non-sustainable holders' income. On the other hand, no quality certified food consumed by people in Mongolia. So how to resolve this problem is we just propose very much kind of holistic, integrated approach to address all these challenges in a holistic way and using economic incentives, because holders respond to economic incentives very quickly and smartly. For example, Mongolia had around 5 million goats in 1990, but now we have around 30 million goats. But there is no government program to increase annual goat number. It was just economic incentive, Kashmir price, which made holders to respond very quickly and smartly, successfully. So this means that we have to use economic incentive to change holders' behavior in the right direction to make livestock holding sustainable in the long term. So number one is, of course, we need to look at all the actors or players in the value chain, livestock value chain, not only holders, consumers, middlemen, processors, buyers, everything. And we need to provide win-win solution to every participant. And also second, we need to base on a tested best practice rather than just reinventing wheels. We have very good practices, but this good practice is not implemented in a holistic way. It's implemented by different donor programs, different actors in different places. Start by small scale piloting with deep intervention and controlled expansion in the sustainable way. This is we believe that the solution to forward. And best practice show that holders can adopt productivity-oriented strategies and reduce hold size if there is a clear and sustainable income growth. And for this, we need to several components to promote. Number one is, of course, pastoral land use agreement. It's already tested. This means it will identify land use boundaries for holder groups, which will encourage ownership mentality. This is your pasture. You can no longer migrate wherever you want, but cost of this pasture depends on your efforts. If you keep good practice, your children will have a good pasture. This kind of ownership mentality is very important. But when we talk about pastoral land use agreement, people ask, what type is mobility? Mobility is very crucial in Mongolian system. For example, in Inner Mongolia, many people criticize that they have destroyed mobility by building fences. But in Mongolia, we propose different strategy. We actually try to recover the existing best practices in which every holder has access to 4 seasonal pastures and also access to emergency pastures in disasters like drought. So in this way, by keeping this mobility between 4 seasonal pastures, we can also introduce this land use agreement, keeping mobility. This is very important. When also drought or disaster happens, there should be reciprocal grazing rights. So when drought happens with your neighbor, you have to duty to your neighbor to enter your pasture, and vice versa. So this kind of pastoral land use agreement is possible in Mongolia and already tested. A livestock risk management fund is also tested in several zones. It builds financial capacity of the zones and holders to address livestock drought risks and the better preparation for winter and value chain, animal health and animal productivity. These kind of activities currently have to be funded from some budget, but some budget have no resources to finance these resources. That's why we suggested this livestock risk management fund, which is contributed from holders' contributions and also some budget. But almost 70% of fund is contributed from holders' donations. Only remaining part is funded from the local budget. Support to value chain is very important. What happens currently is holders sell animals at the campsites. This means they have no bargaining power against buyers. Buyers just collect products, visit every holders campsite at very low price. So this makes holders lose a lot of income because of low bargaining power, low prices. So they need to organize into kind of marketing cooperatives to better deal with buyers and also to gain some economies of scale. And lastly, thanks to Mexico and Hasbank, we propose another very important incentive, which is Enkh loan, very soft loan around 12% annual interest rate. Currently, holders get loans around 24–30%, very high. So this 12% is more than halved. So, for example, in Bio sum of Hintiamak, 500 million tools was disposed, used upon in 4 days. There was very high demand from holders to get this loan. And to get this loan, holders are obliged, they sign an agreement to reduce hold size and to sell animals not from campsites through the central animal health quality examination certification point are established in the some center. So this kind of incentive mechanisms actually tries to build holders' behavioral change. Here just examples of how this practice produced some results. For example, in 2009-2012, there was peri-urban rangeland project funded by US government's Millennium Challenge Corporation. And 384 holder groups established land use agreements. 2015-2016, STC's Green Gold, and also we have tested land use agreement for 17 holder groups, and they have reduced hold size target by 102 and 131% for some holders. So this means this land use agreement actually can build commitment on the holder side to use pastures in a sustainable way. Livestock Risk Management Fund under World Bank project, we have tested in foursomes, and holders paid voluntarily around 10 to 22 million collected from holders. So this means holders can pay contributions if the revenues used back on pasture management, risk management by holders locally, not going to the central budget. Value chain, also in 2015, we have piloted lamb feeding and selling into UB premium market, and market price was 37%, 1/4 is higher than the existing market price. And in Oyotolgo, we did also some business consultancy, tested models for improving camel wool value chain, and the holders price increased from 4,000 to 12,000 by competitors. So these kind of opportunities are not used now. Why? Because of wrong incentives, holders are not interested, but right incentives are offered, holders can realize these opportunities and they can increase income. Not only holders, all players in the value chain. In 2017 and 2018, we have reduced hold size for the first time in Mongolia for our pilot project herd groups. Two herd groups reduced herd size by 12% for 2 consecutive years, so 6% annually. This was a very surprising achievement. Nobody believed in the first year. They say just it was kind of luck. But for the second year we reduced, now the people now are starting to believe. So it can happen. Herders can reduce herd size. In 2018, as I mentioned earlier, these eco loans, soft loans, also provide very strong incentive for herders to reduce herd size. Unfortunately, Hasbank resource now used up, but herders' demand is very high. Now herders are asking where is the next batch is coming, but Hasbank cannot probably mobilize resources this year. Here we just use kind of herd projection model, income and output model, how herders can benefit from reduced herd size. For example, it's shown average sum of Mongolia. Average sum now has around 200,000 livestock, or 331,000 sheep units. But it can be reduced slowly around by 6-8% annually to reach around 134,000. And we also estimate that this herd size reduction should not happen overnight. It should happen slowly. If they increase herd size more than 6% per year, herders lose income. So the maximum savings should be 8-6%. And herders' income is increased from 9.7 million, the baseline, to around almost 50 million. This increase of income comes from increased sales of animals, meat income, and also increased animal productivity, milk, cashmere, and reduced animal death, mortality rate. So this model was very convincing to herders to see, because herders, of course, not very good at estimating income and financial calculations, and we use this model in trainings, how they can benefit from herd size reduction and improve productivity. And productivity per animal increased from 13,000 per sheep unit to 29,000, more than doubled. And also greenhouse gas emission reduction is reduced by around 8,400 tons per son. So nationwide it means around 2 million tons can be reduced by decreased herd size. So this model can be expanded further in year 6, year 7, and until year 10. Why? Because now overgrazing is around 5 to 6 times. So to reach optimal stock and density, herd size should be reduced in some sums for 10 years to reach optimal stock and density. And here it's just some nationwide estimates of how our model what kind of results can be achieved by implementing this model. For example, livestock number can be reduced to 35 million. Currently we have 66 million already. But with this reduced number, meat production increased to 500,000 tons, and the export potential increased to 250,000. And export earnings in US dollars can reach 1 billion. But Oyutolga, the biggest copper mine income was only less than 1 billion in 2015. So livestock and only meat income can match, even exceed Oyutolga's income if put on sustainable path of development. So this is probably last one. As I explained, just first picture shows how herders compete with each other for a bigger portion of animal number and pasture space. And productivity is not increasing. But the second model, if every herd group is given certain area to increase productivity and to increase also animal productivity, not compete with each other, they should compete for better productivity to reach better markets, especially export markets. In this way, we can make livestock sustainable, and we can increase herders' income and make the livelihoods sustainable in the long term. Because that's the end of this presentation.